Hello everyone, welcome to the Concern Podcast, where we unpack political, social, economic and cultural stories shaping our world. I am Emmanuel Taban. Now, a couple of days ago, a South Sudanese Harvard scholar, Dr. Luka Biong, a guy who served previously as a minister in the office of the president, a guy who also served in the SPLM party, a member of the SPLM party, wrote a very interesting literary craft, an article that has actually caught attention of so many people. In his article, he has stipulated or listed his opinions on how South Sudan should approach 2026 for the elections that has been slated and agreed on upon by the presidency last week. And it is a very interesting article if you read it, and he had a very interesting arguments there. And in this video, I want us to discuss about some of his opinions and how I feel if we go with what he wrote, or if South Sudanese or the South Sudan government, or if the entire country decide to go with a couple of things that he wrote, I perceive or I view that it's a very dangerous thing. Now, before we proceed, if this is your first time watching a video on this channel, please subscribe, hit on the notification button, like, comment, and if the videos interest you, of course, share with your colleagues. It's a way of making this channel grow, and when it grows, it motivates us to make more videos back to back. Thanks for those who have been supporting us. We are much grateful and continue doing so. Now, as I said, that in this video, we are going to discuss about the content of that literary material, of that article. So in that article, the body of that article, the major points there is the 4 opinions on how Luka Biong wants South Sudanese to get into an election. One, he suggested that it is going to be impossible for the country to go into an elections in the usual manner, where just like the way how other countries conduct elections. And he suggested that perhaps South Sudan should go into an elections with one of his suggestions. And one of the things he has suggested is that the country can go into an elections with a reduced number of constituencies, which is 102, which is the number of constituency that was actually used during the 2010 elections. So he suggested that the other constituencies should be ignored and we should go into the elections using the previous constituencies. That is his opinion. And again, Luka Biong has suggested that if that doesn't work, the country should go or should only have a partial elections. Now, a partial elections, according to him, he meant that we should only go and elect executives, both in the national and in the states level, where we go and elect the president, we elect governors or chief administrators of their administrative areas and commissioners. And then we should defer or abandon the legislature, which is the very prominent arm of the government. So according to Biong, we shouldn't go and elect members of parliament, nor in the National Assembly or in the Council of States. No election for these people. We should only go and elect executives. That is another approach that he has given that we should use towards the 2026 elections. Another one he has given is that perhaps the government should establish what he called a technocratic political structure, where the presidency exists, and then instead of having governors or a cabinet, we should have a cabinet established that comprises of technocrats. And the technocrats, to him, he preferred people who have served in the ministries, like the undersecretaries. They should be the one leading these cabinet positions as cabinet ministers, instead of having these guys are politically drunk. We should go for undersecretaries and senior civil servants should be the one that comes into these cabinet positions. That is what he called the technocratic structure. And he also suggested that in the states level, we should have the senior state level undersecretaries in all the state ministry to form the state cabinet, and the secretary, and someone who is the senior to be the governor of the state. That is what he said. And he did mention other alternatives. But my major focus in this video, I want to talk about his suggestion of a partial election. And that is where I'm going to focus mainly. Luka Biong suggested that the country should go for the partial elections, where we shouldn't go and elect the legislature, so members of parliament, but only the executive. And according to me, that is a very dangerous move. It is dangerous, reckless, and it's even more dangerous than having an elections, a general elections in 2026. It's more dangerous because what is the purpose of the legislature in a democratic state? The purpose of the legislature is mainly to check the executive. These people pass this bill, they debate and discuss bills that are maybe formulated by these executives, and then the legislature, they go and debate about these bills and vote for them if they should be enacted into laws before they're taken to the president. That is the function of the legislature. So, and also the legislature ensures that the powers of the presidents are not that so high. They do that by checking the government. They do pass budgets, annual budgets for countries. So in an instance where we only have an executive elected, so according to him, I believe his alternative is that if we're not going to elect the legislature, then we should have them appointed by the winning team, or by the winning political party, or by the people who will form the government by 2026. So according to him, the people, whether being the SPLMI or the SPLM government or whatever political party forms the government in 2026, they should be the one having that right to appoint members of parliament. That is according to him. That is so dangerous, because if we are going to appoint members of parliament, then I think the will of the people will be tampered with, because the president of that whosoever will be the president in 2026 will make his appointment based on his own criteria. He might bring in the factor of the ethnicity, or the factor of the political patronage, and then he uses them in order to appoint these members of parliament. And when he uses such criteria, then I feel that the will of the people is tampered with. We are not going to have capable people who actually represents the will of the people in parliament, and that is so dangerous. The members of parliament, if they are not elected, if they are going to be appointed, they are going to be a rubber stamp for the president, since they are appointed by the president, and the president has the power to unappoint them. So they are going to make sure that whatsoever thing is brought to the parliament, they have to pass it in favor of the person who appoints them, and they are simply going to be a rubber stamp. And that is also so reckless and dangerous. This means they are going to pass whatsoever finance bills that comes into the parliament, whether being whatever bills, whatever being the extension of presidential limit, whether being the extension of age limit, or even elimination of term limits, they will pass that. And especially with the argument made by the presidency last week that the country is heading towards an elections, even when the country doesn't have a permanent constitution and has never done the population census. It is reckless that when these people are appointed, there are possibilities of them going to, just pass on laws that are very, very cruel to the people. And that is the danger of having a partial elections, where we only put focus on the executive, neglecting the legislature of the country. So I feel Luka Biong is entitled to his views, but he should also be criticized. I don't agree at all with the idea of having a partial election. It's either we go for a general election, or we don't have an election. Either an extension, or if at all we are having an election, we should have it as a general election where we have the executive elected and the legislature. Because an executive with an appointed legislature is just, it's nothing. It's honestly nothing. So that's my take about the PASO elections mentioned by Luka Biong on his article published a couple of days ago. So tell us what you think about these suggestion of the Dr. Luka Biong, and if you feel you have an opinion regarding that, write down on the comment section. Otherwise, until next time, I'm Emmanuel Taban, and this is the Constant Podcast. Thank you.